You've heard the adage, there's no replacement for displacement. But I don't think that's as true as it used to be, and I just pulled up in something that exemplifies that. The 2025 Ram RHO, the successor to the TRX, which was a Hellcat-powered 6.2-liter supercharged V8 beast, whereas with this, we've got a twin-turbocharged straight 6 under the hood that's down 162 horsepower from last year. But don't let those numbers scare you, because 0 to 60 is 4.6 seconds, a tenth slower than last year. Quarter mile comes in 13.1 seconds, 2/10 slower than last year. So acceleration-wise, it's pretty much the same as last year. But overall, I think what's sitting behind me is the better vehicle than the TRX. I'm Manuel Carrillo with Capital One Auto Navigator here in the deserts of Southern California, and today we're going to prove out why it's better than last year. So we're behind the wheel of the 2025 Ram RHO. And so what's the first thing I'm going to notice? Well, it's going to be on startup, so here we go. Yes, the sound of a straight 6 instead of a raucous V8. So I would say that the sound of the Hurricane straight 6 is not bad. Once you start driving the RHO, you start forgetting that an engine under the hood doesn't sound as good as last year's model. That's okay, because when I'm actually driving this thing, the first thing I notice is that there's 150 fewer pounds off the front axle. So when I'm going over a significant whoop like we are right now, and I hit the brakes, I don't feel all this weight just launching forward over the front axle. 150 pounds in a 6,000 to 7,000 pound truck isn't really gonna be noticeable, but when it's sitting over the front axle like that, it does pay a larger dividend than its weight would suggest. We're in Johnson Valley, famed for King of the Hammers, and just about a week ago, this whole valley here was filled with people from wall to wall, basically. And now we've got it all to ourselves, and as we go down this rutted, whoopy road, I'm really appreciating that there's 14 inches of suspension travel on the rear axle. There's about a foot of ground clearance, so if I had to make a U-turn in any other vehicle with, say, 8 or 9 inches of ground clearance, many SUVs have that amount of ground clearance, I would be worried about abrasion due to a skid plate, or if a car didn't have the skid plate, I'd be worried about damaging underbody components and engine components. But that's not the case when you have a full foot of ground clearance underneath you. So the Ram RHO has a bevy of drive modes. My favorite one so far is putting it in a sport mode, and I've also got launch control engaged now. So let's give this a whirl and see what this 3-liter twin-turbo straight 6 with 540 horsepower and 521 pound-feet of torque can do. And that was 34 miles an hour on really, really loose dirt like that. And I will say, twin-turbo straight 6, there is a bit of delay before getting into the power band. That's understandable though, with the amount of boost being put through this straight 6. It's gonna be a little bit laggy, and you don't really start to get into the power band until you're about 2,500 RPM. But once you surpass 2,500 RPM, whoo, it gets nice and zippy. And actually, I think I get more excited when I come into the power band of this engine, because the way it just livens up 2,500 RPM and beyond, it just snaps you back into your seat, and it's exhilarating. So as far as power delivery, I think this is pretty much neck and neck with the Hellcat powered example from before. The RHO has a terrific ride, and that's especially true when you get progressively faster over whoops, as I'm doing right now. You can see as we get more activity into the suspension, not being thrown around, it's just getting more exciting to me and not less and less comfortable. Well, we've got an entire desert at our disposal, so let's just have some fun. So as I find myself out here exercising this beast, I think about obviously the competitor to the RHO, which is the Ford F-150 Raptor. And of course with that, you still have a V8 option in the Raptor R, but when you think about apples to apples comparison, the V6 powered Raptor is going to be the natural competitor to this. On this bit of our off-road stretch, it reminds me of how good this vehicle feels on paved roads. This doubles as such a competent commuter. Most people who drive these trucks aren't going to be driving them out here 95% of the time. 95% of the time they're going to be on paved roads, on the freeway, what have you. And so as quiet, as smooth, and such a great ride, just how refined this thing feels going down paved roads too. It's a revelation, kind of. 2025 Ram RHO starts at about $72,000. That's less than last year's TRX, and as we demonstrated out here today, it is not a downgrade at all. It costs $9,000 less than a base F-150 Raptor, but here is a third number you're really going to enjoy. $1,000 less annually to fuel this versus last year's TRX. So I think we've demonstrated out here in Johnson Valley today that this is a worthy successor to last year's famed TRX.